Yeah, my name is Kayan Cajudo. I'm the founder and chief instructor of Sanduguan Kali, and I'm the Panday of sdkcustomblades. I grew up hearing stories about it from my dad. He claims that one of my lolos was a Katipunan officer, and another lolo was in the Bolo Battalion in Pampanga during the Japanese invasion. And I was 17 when I met my first teacher, Rafi Pambuan Arnis, and I stayed with him for like 20 years, over 20 years. And then I trained, here, different arts, different systems, California, Philippines, and I backpacked throughout the Philippines. Found my uncle, like a second uncle in Mindanao, and went train with him. Started about 2010, the development, and then it took years to put it together. It was originally a very conceptual style, and then it became systematic, and a lot of it was like by request by my wife. It's one of them. So she asked me to make it more user friendly, I guess. So giving more structure to it. I would say with the blade, it's primarily evasive, even with the stick as well. So with weaponry, primarily evasive. Just for comparison, FCS would be like a lot of like inside, really close range. While my biggest influence is Pambuan, which is Laguna style, and it's primarily long range. And so I would say with the weapon, it's primarily long range. With the dirty boxing, now we're taking center line. So it's known to be like very explosive and dynamic and very direct. And we have a concept of bangga, which is collision, and a concept of lambanog, which is the whiplash or slingshot. Which is also the Filipino whiskey. Definitely came from FMA. Through the FMA community in Florida, I met Grandmaster Fred Lazo of Luz Minda Brotherhood, and he was, I believe, the really last Panday of Florida who was doing what I do. I don't know if there's anybody else, and he died 10 years ago. So now I think I'm the only one, and I'm searching for somebody else in the country. Obviously there's some in the Philippines, but I'm looking for somebody in the country who does traditional Filipino weaponry. But so far I haven't found any. That's what I'm looking for, because I want to learn more. So the blade design, I'm really into profile and geometry of the blade. Of course, your style of cutting is really important. The ginunting is one of the most requested blades, and honestly, I never learned to cut with that one, right? It's a negative curve blade. It just behaves differently. I like the sinungot ulang. These are sinungot ulang, which is like the nose of the shrimp. It's a Tagalog blade, but it's kind of like the Filipino kukri. So you see it has a drop here. It's kind of a dramatic drop, which creates a recurve, and then this would be your sweet spot for chopping. And then it's a slight clip point which comes up, which would be like your correction for thrusting. Because if it's pointed down, then it's not ideal for thrusting. So if you had a straight blade, you would have to do a draw cut to get a chop that's as deep as a recurve. So
what are the curves for, or the grooves for?
Those are fullers. So some people call them blood grooves. I do them to, it takes weight off of the blade without compromising the structure. It's kind of the same concept of an I-beam in in construction. So the I-beam it's like a capital I. So instead of having solid steel, they take out almost all of it except for what they need. So it's a lot lighter, but still has the same strength. Most of my orders are out of state. So I don't usually measure hands. I usually ask about the stature, how tall you are, how big you are, how much you weigh, and then I go from there. Well, right now my shop floods. I caught myself on fire twice. My shop caught on fire a couple times. Minor fires, but every time it rains, my shop floods. So finding a proper space right now is really hard. With the actual project, the hardest part is keeping the blade straight because it wants to warp, and then a lot of the other parts that come along with it. I have cuts and burns all over my hands, lungs, metal dust and wood dust, and so those are the parts that are not glamorous, part of the job. I keep them oiled. It's chromium is what I was thinking of earlier. That's what's in stainless steel. So it has a percentage of chromium, a low percentage, which makes it corrosion resistant. And then the vanadium gives it a tighter grain, makes it tougher. It's still high carbon steel, so it will rust. So I'd say keep them oiled, and I encourage people to do test cutting, but I recommend plastic bottles and melons. It'll go through wood, when you have a polished blade. I wouldn't be, putting it through car doors and stuff, even though it would probably do well through a car door, but it's just not meant for that. It's not made for that. And
one of the crazy stuff they do in Fortune Fire, get a skull,
mm-hmm.
start bashing your blade against the
skull. Well, as far as animal parts go, that's no problem. I took the pig in half and there's not a scratch on the blade. It's no problem. But of course, people get creative and they're like, my blade broke and I was, putting it through a car door, and it's like, I'm sorry, you don't get your money back. So, what I use them for, and what I hope that people use them for, is heirlooms and to pass their children, or to gift to their friend or teacher or student. And I use them for meditation. So my carenza. So I recommend that people use them for carenza and test cutting with either cans or bottles, water bottles, plastic water bottles. I'm not planning on getting rich, but if I could be full time, that would be that's my aspiration in my life. To be full-time bladesmith or full-time instructor, part-time with the other. So having a primary and secondary. I'd like to travel. The blades don't travel well, because of security and regulations and stuff. But I would, starting to travel now to teach. So the website is sdkaliofficial, and then on Facebook is Sanduguan Kali, YouTube Sanduguan Kali, and then Instagram it's sdkalifl and sdkaliofficial. And for the Instagram for the blades is sdkcustomblades.